Welcome to Backyard Bows. Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon. This is the second Darton that we've had on our review site. I love this because I finally get to kind of compare some of different bows from the same company. I've shot several Matthews, so it's easy to kind of, when I get a new Matthews in, it's easy to kind of see kind of where they've come from, the progress that they've made. But with a company that I'm a little bit more unfamiliar with, it's nice to have like kind of a comparison. So now I have a little bit of perspective on kind of where the company is trying to head and what changes that they're going to make. So I think every company, if you're going to change a bow every single year, you can kind of start to see what direction a company's heading. I think everybody is trying to achieve the same goal of the deadest in hand, the quietest, the smoothest draw, the most stable with blazing speeds. I think that's the end goal. Bring the most kinetic energy without sacrifice. And engineering a bow in a way where you see as little sacrifice as possible, trying to get some speed. So I think Darton this year, if you look at the Veracity and the Prelude, their other new bow, which we'll do here in a couple weeks when they send me one, they both have a little bit increase on the speeds. I think the Prelude's up to 342 and the Veracity's at like 339, where the Spectra E from the beginning of the season that we did was only at 330. So they're trying to bump up the speed a little bit, and the Prelude, I think, used that same cam system that Spectra E had, which was a little bit more, there was a lot to it. It was a little bit more advanced. I'm excited to see that again and kind of mess around with that once again, because there was a lot to it. Where the Veracity, this bow, they went with that binary system, kind of bus tuning system, something that really looks very similar to a PSC setup. So simple to use, simple to tune, simple to use, super simple to get the timing on these bows. This took me no time at all to get this thing up and tuned. And what, the rep that I talked to, what he said, and I haven't messed with this enough to have this perspective myself, but one of the things he said is that, these risers are so rigid. There's such little flex to them that they don't see people having to kind of shim to tune much with this bow. It kind of came right out of the box, almost perfect. You kind of tune it a little bit with this, the cables, and sure enough, I mean, it was shooting almost perfect in no time. So I like to see that. So let's go over the specs. This is a little bit different. The riser length is probably almost the same as the Spectra E. The riser is a little bit different bridged and a little bit different shape, and where we're getting that longer to axle, which is 35 inches, is from those vertical limbs that are kind of going a little bit more up. Kind of reminds me of that PSC drive that we did. Nice medium-sized riser, and then you have these vertical limbs that gives it that really long axle to axle, which can vary. Sometimes a bow that's shaped like this, it holds nicely. Sometimes I feel like they're a little bit, a little bit instability in that full draw. So we'll see here in a second when we start shooting it. 35-inch axle to axle, 6-inch brace height, which is going to give it those, a little bit higher speeds. It's 4.8 pounds. You got a 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80-pound draw weight option that fluctuates that 10 pounds. I got this one maxed all the way out at about 69 pounds comes standard with an 85% let off. And you actually, once we get to the cams, we'll talk about the let off adjustments here in a second, which is kind of cool and something new to this cam, or new to this bow. But let's go ahead. A couple things that they added the integrated rest system to the back, so you can add that rest directly onto the back of the riser. Like I said, the riser is a completely new shape. It does have that Darton style. Each company kind of has that unique riser style that we see, and it looks like the Spectra E, just a little bit different shape, a little bit different bridges. I love the limb pockets on these and the limbs. So they go into this, they slide into the limb pocket, but there is a kind of a little rod underneath the limb pocket, which that slips into, again, preventing it from going forwards and backwards. It has a tightening bolt, so you undo that before you start unloosening your limb bolt for your, to kind of fluctuate that draw weight, and then you just crank that inside bolt back down. You know, same string stop that we saw. I love a dampener on the end of string stops. I've said that so many times. It's just a well-placed dampener. And then one of the things that they did change, it was kind of the only thing that I kind of knocked on that Spectra E, was the cable guard. It had just a, you know, the sliding rod with the cable guard, and now they have a cable guard on here, which looks very, very familiar. And that cable guard, you know, you can adjust it horizontally right and left, but I think that is just the end kind of completion to these bows. There's nothing budget on these bows. You know, there's nothing that we see kind of on a budget bow now. That was kind of the last piece, and I love that. I think this is just one of the most rock solid cable guards you can get. So going up, you got these dampeners, top and bottom. Man, they're really big gelatin type dampeners. I said this with the Spectre. I really like those. I like to feel them. I think that they probably absorb a lot of that shock from those limbs. And then you go to the cams, a little bit simpler cam, mod, tuning system, you know, and they're kind of just adding to their repertoire of, you know, cams and mods. I said it in the Spectre E video. That's kind of what they have been known for, is kind of like patenting some of these different cams and mods over the year and selling those. They probably have a Rolodex of different cams and mods, and this is what they went with for the Veracity. I love it. Really simple, nice and clean. I feel like it's going to have a really nice clean shot cycle. You got your mod that you can fluctuate from 26 out to 31.5. Something new that they did is 1/4 inch increments, which again, I love that, because as you've heard me say, each bow varies. I can't just set a bow at 30 inches and it be the exact same on every manufacturer. Sometimes you need an extra 1/2 inch, sometimes you need an extra, you know, maybe a less of a 1/2 inch, but I love that you have 1/4 inch increments, and then you can really get it just perfectly feel to you. Two loosening of the bolts, really easy exchange. You have this number system, one being the 26, all the way up to 6.5, which is that 31.5, and you can just, you have each number, which is an inch increment, and then you have the split between those, which is the 1/2 inch, and then if you split those again, and there's these little bitty placements on that mod, that's where you can go to those 1/4 inch increments. So again, I have it at 30.25 is what I'm gonna go outside and shoot with it. That's what felt the best. When we do the speed test, we'll have it at 30, but I added a 1/4 inch increment, and man, it felt great. So if you go to the top side of this mod, it has the string stop on there, and you can actually add these little backboards. They give you 3 different adjustments for the top and for the bottom. I assumed 85 out of the box, it'd be 80, 75, 70, but after fiddling around with it a little bit, it's more of just adding about 2 pounds. I kept it on 85. That's kind of the let off that I like and prefer. You know, so me personally, I like to just go off a feel. You know, how does the bow feel in full draw to you? Find that perfect let off for you, and don't worry necessarily about the feet per second, because honestly, it's not going to change enough to decide and whether you're comfortable or not. So let's go ahead. We'll shoot our single shot assessment. I love this because I actually had been running out of time. I've been really busy, so I had somebody set this up for me. So I haven't got to shoot it. So these are going to be the truest first shots, and occasionally this happens. Sometimes I have to set them up my own and I get some shots, but I love when I can give you the first shot reactions kind of on camera, and that's what this is going to be. So something else that they changed a little bit this year is the grip, where on that Spectre E, it really was a wide, thick, you know, rectangular block. It didn't have any curvatures to it. It didn't fit to your hand. I was kind of iffy about it. It was fine, but it just wasn't my preference. This has a little bit more, you know, a little bit more rounded sides. It has a little bit more curve right here for your, you know, where you're actually going to grip the bow. This feels a little bit better in hand. And I love that it's, you know, it's made to kind of fit your wrist and the shape of your hand, you know, where you kind of have those, you know, the Matthews is one right off the top of the bat. They're real more vertical. Man, I like it when it has a little bit of curvature to it. You know, I think this one is going to be a little bit nicer than the Spectre. So I like that they changed that. Let's go ahead. We got a pretty day. We're going to get outside. We'll shoot it a bunch. I've been real busy with work this week. I haven't been able to kind of get even my daily reps in, honestly, as much as I have been. So I'm excited to get out there and shoot a bunch. All right, I'm gonna shoot it one more time. Okay, so it has, man, this, we'll start with what I think is some of the best things that I've seen from the Spectre and now this. The hold is great. So it does have a little bit more rigid, a little bit more stiff draw. It has a real nice hump kind of towards the end that I felt, and I wasn't sure, you know, I kind of had to draw it twice to kind of really see what I was feeling, but it does have kind of like a hump you got to get over. And you think it's just going to dump on you, and it doesn't. It transitions nice into the back wall, and then eventually you kind of realize, oh, this sets up nice. So once you get to the back wall, man, the let off's nice. Just right at 85, right out of the box. It feels good, you know, fully set up. I think I've said this before, but on limbs, you know, vertical limb bows, they kind of want to torque on me a little bit more. I like that this one has a longer axle to axle. I think the platform sets up nice. You know, that's something that we'll be able to see once we get outside. Man, yeah, I would say where the PSE drive, you know, it was a little bit unstable. Man, this seems just as solid as the Spectre E. Which we all know, or if you don't know, you should. That's what matters, you know. So when we do these assessments, we like to give you everything. We like to tell you how it vibrates in your hand, if it's noisy, how smooth the draw is. But really, if I was to click through one of my reviews, I would click through all the way to the gazebo shots on the 40 and 50, and then you can kind of really see the stability of the bow, which in the end is really what matters. The hold and the stability. And you'll hear me say it all the time, I'm gonna beat that dead horse forever. Everything else is preference. It really is. The most important thing is, how does the bow hold at full draw? I would say the Spectre E was a little bit more solid, okay? I absolutely loved that bow. But this is really nice. So you're gaining a little bit on the feet per second. And I think that's kind of where you're sacrificing a little bit at full draw. And then obviously the draw a little bit, I would say the Spectre is a hair smoother too. I'm excited to see the Prelude. I loved that cam and mod system that was on the Spectre E. I think that'll play into the Prelude and kind of how it draws and holds. But this is really nice. So you have a little bit of vibration in your hand. And then it's a fairly quiet bow. So yeah, a little bit of kick in your hand, not bad. Nice and quiet. It gets a little bit faster than the Spectre, so you're kind of gaining those speeds like I just mentioned. Let's get outside. We will shoot this thing an absolute ton today. I'm just excited to start shooting again. All right, so we'll do our freestyle shoot. We'll shoot at all of our 3D targets out here. Man, my favorite part about these bow reviews is the bow, is getting different bows in my hand and just being able to, from my own perspective, kind of get to see, you know, what each company, you know, is putting out, what changes they're making, and what direction they're heading. So I would say Darton, I think Obsession, Expedition, some of these companies that I haven't had a ton of experience with, these are kind of some of my favorite reviews because I just, you know, I don't know what to expect from each one. So hopefully the chicken don't get shot. We got chickens on the loose. The coop burnt down a couple days ago, and we're in the process of building a new one. So over here we have an elevated box. We're kind of shooting at that tree stand angle downhill. We got a boar at 30, and then we got 2 bucks at 35. So again, now that we step outside and we're not in front of that bag in a closed-in room, it does have a little thud pop to it, for sure. I mean, I set it with the PSE drive too. I don't know if it's just the shape of these bows, the higher limbs, but it has a good little noise to it. A little bit of vibration in the hand, but again, I think the best part, which is the most important, is the hold. So even with these vertical limbs, which usually I kind of see a little bit of instability on a bow that's shaped in this way, this one holds really, really nice at full draw. And like I've also mentioned in several different videos, something that sticks out to me at the very beginning, like that big hump in the draw cycle, that has smoothed out a little bit. I'm anticipating it a little bit more, you know, and this draw, maybe even just the bow loosening up a hair, man, this draw has become nicer and nicer as well. So let's shoot at the last buck. So there goes a liver. Goes a liver shot. Let's shoot one more at that buck. Man, this thing, it's definitely shooting some darts. Let's go step over to the other side and we'll shoot some longer range shots. So here's the kind of, this is every archer's dream spot over here. We got every 3D target you can think of at different depths. Man, this is the way to go. Is kind of getting out here, shooting the bow at different depths, really getting a good feel for the bow, and then always getting out to about 50 yards. That's how you're going to tell the stability of the bow. I mean, no matter what, if you're doing a review inside of a building and you're shooting at a short shot bag, quit giving people a stability review. I mean, honestly, it like drives me crazy. It's one of the reasons why I even started doing this, is because you'd get these guys in front of a bag at 3 yards and tell you how stable the bow is. So we'll shoot at everything all the way up to that elk 25, broadhead buck 30, gray wolf 35, mama black bear, baby black bear, which we'll do that full draw stall on at 40. Then we got 45 and 50. Okay, so something else I forgot to mention inside, two things. One, on the riser, they have a spot for those two-piece quivers, top and bottom. Also, something that I love about this bow and about these Dartons is the strings that they use. So if you rub your fingers up and down, you'll realize that they're really, really strict. They use these blood string material, which is, it's pretty much a plastic coating instead of a wax coating, which it just doesn't fraze easily. But you can kind of tell by just rubbing your fingers up and down. It's a real, real nice slick material. We'll go broadhead buck, which is at 30. Let's go. We'll go right past it to the gray wolf at 35. Man, stability's great. These are coming off there really nice. I was thinking, I think this system on a PSC, the shot cycle is just a little bit cleaner. You know, and I'm going to be a little bit critique, I'm going to critique a little bit. So you got a little bit of vibration in your hand, and you kind of feel that all through the bow. Sometimes, if you just go like this on a bow, you can kind of feel how much vibration it's going to have. You don't even have to shoot it. That kind of vibration goes all the way through that bow. It's not the cleanest shot cycle, but the arrows are coming off really, really nice. It's really stable in full draw. Again, I'm going to say this, with those vertical limbs, I kind of anticipate a little instability, but this is really nice. Once you get past that hump that I was talking about earlier, it sets up real nice. It doesn't want to jump on you. As you're drawing it back, you kind of instinctually think, man, this is going to want to jump on me, but it doesn't. So I like that. Let's set up on those black bears. We'll do that full draw stall. All right, so on to the mama black bear, which is at 40, and then we'll do that full draw stall on Paddington, that little black bear. So again, man, I talk about everything, but in the end, when I shoot the majority of the shots in between the camera going off, we stay over here and we'll shoot at the bucks, we'll shoot at the black bear, and we'll shoot at that elk for the most of the day. That's performance. And I think more people embody everything into a performance of a bow. I honestly, when it comes to the performance, the stability of the bow, the shot cycle, which nobody seems to talk about, how kind of clean those arrows come off. Man, that to me is like 80% of my bow buying purchase. Kind of what goes into it is how stable is that bow. And I truly don't believe you can even tell or start to even slightly tell until you get about to 40 yards. So let's go one more on the mama. And man, I like this. I like it. I like the way it holds up, and I think this is the first vertical limb bow that I like. I usually steer away from them, and that's just a personal preference. But this one, I think I'm shooting real well with. I like the way it holds. Now we'll do a full draw stall. We got 1 minute, and then we'll release an arrow on that little black bear. You know, by about 30 seconds, you can feel yourself kind of tensing up, trying to make sure that it's not going to jump for you because it kind of wants to creep a little bit. But I'm not gassed by any means. Like I said, I think it's weird because it's a tough pull, but then once you get to the back wall, it locks out real nicely. And I felt like I could dial it in real nicely too at full draw. So let's go ahead and we'll put that camera up at the elk. We'll do a couple 50 shots, and then we'll go do the speed test. All right, on to the elk. One day I'm gonna get that Delta Mackenzie elk. One day, I'm gonna get that big boy elk up there. Right now we're shooting on that mini elk. 50 yards, we'll fling a whole bunch of that elk today. Ooh, that's a dead elk. Man, it's like in a nutshell, to be honest, no, it's not dead in your hand. It's not super quiet. It doesn't have a smooth draw, but it's stable. I mean, it is. It holds really nice. And I was kind of anticipating something different. So again, I love seeing new bows from different companies. You know, it's just fun to see because I always anticipate something different, you know, and that's just human nature. So all right, so we're gonna do our speed test, and then we'll sit down and give it that grade after we've kind of shot a bunch this afternoon. But this is a bow I can see myself shooting all day. A little bit more rigorous on the draw, but like I said, I'm well rested. Haven't shot a ton this week. I'm excited to get after it. All right, so first review with the new chronograph. We got the G2 by Caldwell, a little bit more precise. I believe a little bit more consistent, just a better round, more accurate chronograph. I've been waiting. I tried to order this when we first started these about a year ago, and I finally found one in somebody's garage. They gave it to me. So we finally got one in, and I've been searching ever since you guys were kind of requested. So when we did the Spectra E, the rep that I had been talking to from Darton, he was like, I think your chronograph's running a little hot, but we'll take it. You know, just kind of joking around. And as we saw in the little short I did, it is running a little hot, so maybe 5 feet per second. So a little bit more accurate. So we got a 339 on the IBO. We got a 500 grain arrow. We did change the specs a little bit. We're gonna go 30 inches on the draw. Length, we'll go 85% let off, 70 pounds, and we'll do a 500 grain arrow and the 440 grain arrow. So that's 290. Man, that's awesome. That's exactly kind of where you want to be and what you want to see. And so now when we did change the grading as well a little bit. So what I said was anywhere between 290 and 299, that's 9 out of 10, anything 300 and above, 10 out of 10, and so forth going down. So every 10 feet per second is a point. And that goes all the way down to 200. So 200 to 209, you're at 1 out of 10. So right off of the bat, and we'll see kind of how it fluctuates and where it goes, but right off of the bat, got a 9 out of 10 on the speed, which is great. That's 286. So we're gonna take an average. So we'll shoot, let's say 5 arrows here. And if the average is below 290, we'll give it the 8 out of 10. So my 9 out of 10 was a little premature. I thought this bow might climb a little bit, but we'll see. 284. That's 285. We'll do one more, but like I said, I think it was a little bit premature on the 9 out of 10. I think it's gonna average more in the high 280s, mid 280s. So it'll get an 8 out of 10, which again, that's kind of right where you wanna be with this grain arrow duplicate. So 285, which is nice. That's awesome. And man, that's a great score right off of the bat for the speed. So 8 out of 10 for the speed. All right, so as we started a couple weeks ago, we'll do a couple shots with a little bit lighter grain arrow. So we got 440 grains. This is a 400 spine full metal jacket. This is what I started out with. Then I went to a 340 and then up to a 300. But I think there's a lot of hunters out there that are still using this grain arrow. And I think it's a great, I think it's right in that range of just perfect hunting arrows. So that's why we're kind of doing both now. But we'll do a couple with this. That's 306. That's a major jump, so that's almost at that, just shooting that one arrow, that's 16, I think this 290 was the fastest with the other grain. So that's almost 16 feet per second. That's 301. That's hovering right around 300. That's awesome. This is, I said this with the Spectra E, I feel like these Darton bows have some good strength to them. You bump down that arrow flight or bump down that arrow weight or bump it up. They do a really good job of kind of holding their feet per second. 310, that's awesome. All right, grading time. I absolutely love the changes that we made with our grading system. I don't know why, I think it's just gonna create a little bit more separation. The first time around we came up with the system, and then by the end I realized, like, man, they're all, very, very similar grades, the way it kind of broke down. So I think we made a couple little tweaks, and I think it's gonna really create a little bit more separation between the bows for those of you who are kind of like numbers people. So right off the bat, we changed the speed. So anywhere between 280 and 289, it gets 8 out of 10. Out of the 5 or 6 shots that we took, it lied right in there. The first one was 290, but I think that was a little hot. So we're gonna go with the average. The quality, I gave the Spectra an 8 out of 10. I'm also gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I think on the Spectra video, if you watch it, I kind of made it sound like the reason I gave it an 8 out of 10 was because of the cable guard, which I didn't like on the other one. And they kind of upgraded to this bearing with the ball bearing with the rollers. And I love that. I just think in a general, it's probably right at the top end of 8 out of 10 for quality, but I'm still gonna give it an 8. I do love that the riser has, little flex to it. You can actually feel that in full draw. This thing is just really, really solid. Appeal, I also gave it an 8 out of 10. I'm not every company has their kind of unique look, and that look that you can kind of look at the bow and be like, oh, that's a PSE, that's a Darton, that's a Matthews. And they're growing on me, but it's just not my favorite look. Especially with this one, I don't like the kind of vertical limbs. I'm more of a horizontal limb guy. I really don't like a heavy reflexed riser. 8 out of 10. And again, this is gonna be one of the first bows that I think we kind of just went 8s across the board. Technology, also 8 out of 10. Cam's pretty basic. I love that you can do 1/4-inch increments now. I think that's really, really key, especially if you want your let off to kind of be a little bit more poundage. You want to hold a little bit more to kind of keep that tenseness. You can also adjust those 1/4-inch increments to kind of keep that draw length that you're sacrificing with the let off. So I like that. I think that's I think we're gonna see more of that as time goes on, not 1/2-inch increments, but 1/4-inch increments, so everybody can get that perfect feel for the bow. And then performance, I also gave it an 8 out of 10. If I took everything that I consider as a non-factor, sound, vibration, you know, smoothness of draw cycle, dead in hand, all of that stuff, and factored it in because it just wasn't as clean to me. You know, the stability of the bow is obviously the most important, and that was actually really nice. Everything else factored in. I'm going to drop it from that 9 down to the 8. But man, like I said, the stability of the bow, I shot really well with it. Man, once you get it back in full draw, it's a little stiff to get back, but once you get it back there, it sets up really, really nice. And in the end, and you'll hear me say this a lot, in the end, that's really all that matters. If we want to break it down to, you know, what is going to factor in the most in the success of your hunt, your target shooting, whatever, it's going to be the stability of the bow, and how well it holds, especially as you get fatigued. You know, how easily is that bow going to hold for you, and kind of how stable it is. I mean, this bow to me, for a high vertical limb bow, it had very little torque to it. I like the way it held. You know, and another thing I think about, so that's 80. So 80, and then you get, you know, instead of adding those bonus points for the price, we added them after we multiplied. So now we're at 80. We're going to give it a +2 for the price. And when I think of the price, right at $1,000, this is what I think of. I look at this bow and I think of, what else does it need? You know, does it need anything else? Is it missing anything? No. This bow has everything that you would want for $300 less than the average competitor. So in a time like now, you know, a recession, money's maybe a little bit tighter. You want a extremely well-performing bow with all of the quality features as any flagship bow across the board, but you want to save yourself $300, $200. Darton's the way to go. I think they've found themselves a little niche. We're going to create great quality bows, and we're just not going to price them out like everybody else. I love that. They're kind of catering to the people who are like, man, I could really save $300 right now. And I think that's just going to be something we'll see from Darton. And they, you know, they came out with the Prelude, which I'm really excited about as well. All their bows are well priced, well made. Some of the best holding bows that I've had in here this year. And really, that's all that matters. So that's an 82 out of 100. I think our grading system this year is going to be a little bit more rigid. Again, which I love. I want to create some space. So we have a lot more bows to come, man. I've been really picky in selecting the next bows that we're going to do. I'm trying to just to find the newest and best. You know, any major changes that have been made for a company. I'm just kind of doing my research and getting the bows in here that I think are going to be the best for the review. If a company hasn't made too major of a change, unless it's sent to me, unless I can get my hands on it from a friend or somebody like that, I probably won't go out and purchase it. But I love, you know, I love some of the new stuff from this year, and I'm excited to share it with you. So make sure you follow us on YouTube if you found anything in this video that was helpful in your bow buying process. Don't buy a bow off a single bow review. Make sure you get tons of different bows in your hands. I think that's most important. What this bow feels to me, it might not feel the same to you. So go out and shoot it, and I encourage you to do that with all of our videos. Also follow us on Instagram. I'll be updating Instagram with every single bow that comes next in our lineup, as well as all kinds of other stuff. So make sure you get your reps in on the daily. We'll see you next Saturday.